The next speaker is Chairperson Realdo Silaj will deliver his speech titled Unconventional Diplomacy, How Values Transcend in Time and Space, a Cultural Perspective. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much. I don't know where I should pick up my pieces after all these amazing talks right now, but being the last one today, hopefully will bring a smile to all of our faces. I'm going to talk about a topic that is very dear to me, and especially because I have been born and raised with this kind of individuality. And while we're talking sustainability, in this concept, we talk about the commons and the share, like in collaboration. Sometimes you do tend to forget the individual, the unique, the folk, you know, the smallest details there is. And for that, I have prepared the presentation, which I will share with you right now. Unconventional Diplomacy by me, yours truly. How this all began was maybe when I was 3 or 4 years old. I've been always born and raised in this very much Southern Albanian environment, in my hometown in Southern Albania. And I've always been intrigued by all, the talks, the discussions, and the songs that I used to hear around my neighborhood, my city, and especially at home. And being brought up in that kind of environment, even when I was studying maths or literature or geography, in at the back of my hand was this peculiar sound, this peculiar music that I didn't understand at the time. It was a type of folk song that we sing in Southern Albania, that my father sings, that my grandfather sang. It's Albanian Southern polyphony, and that is very much one thing that defines me and one thing that makes me special. And I wanted to share it with you today because I really believe that to be sustainable means also to uphold the cultural values that we all share, because they are ours, but at the same time, they are there for the public, for the myth, for the whole world to see. So, a bit of background. I've been a student of international relations and diplomacy. I've worked in it for a while. And in this way, I'm going to show you, I've found out that those two caveats of my life intertwine. So why do I call it unconventional diplomacy? Well, we maybe have heard about cultural diplomacy and all these festivals. Eurovision is a type of cultural diplomacy, if you dare say. Now, we know it's a thing, but is it really tangible? Is it really visible? Do you touch culture? Do you feel it? Are you really able to connect to it? And that's what's been bothering me in my mind for a long time. Because while, when you study international relations, you talk about the whole world, but you do not talk about yourself and how you position. You tend to forget that you are part of this as well. And with you comes all this background of knowledge and ideas. And think about the microcosmos of all these diverse cultural elements out there. It's not just a song, it's not just a picture, it's gesture. And it's a feeling, it's something that you do unconsciously because you have been affected by the culture of your family, of the small cellular up to even your neighborhood and up to your city and your region and your country and what do I know? And there's so much from it, and we have yet to explore most of it. We have the digital means, but does that really mean that we can touch and feel a culture? There are ways, and hopefully this one today will inspire you. The visibility of culture, as I was speaking, um, it has been something that every day I would see different cultures. I would be exposed to Western centric values, I would call them, or like to Eastern centric values at the same time. But what are these? What are these concepts? Why do they matter? Why does it matter what I feel, or where does it belong, what I do is like, where is that really something that I should worry about? And I've been like facing this term all this time, world music, because there's different genres, as we know, but there's something that people call a genre, world music. What is world music? It's every music that in Western civilization seems foreign, in the sense that it seems detached from the sense of the pop and the rock and the R&B and B and the soul and whatnot. And they all pull it together into what they call world music. Maybe you've heard, Yanis is one a great composer of this world music, but I'm really not okay with it, because you cannot just put a term to something that doesn't belong to you. World music means world music. Everything that is music is our music of the world. So, intrigued by that, I got even more passionate to discover my own music. And my own music is what I'm going to show you right now, and how that it connects with how I grew up in my cultural environment and how it made me who I am. And hopefully, but through what I'm going to explain to you right now, you will get a grasp that how much does it matter that everything that we are faced consciously and unconsciously, especially in a cultural way, has an impact on your persona. Cultural diplomacy, as I said, representing and sharing your cultural worldview and cultural elements of countries in official and unofficial contexts. Here in the picture is a famous Albanian politician, diplomat, poet, writer, journalist, Faik Konica. And right there, he's being a diplomat, but not through, I don't know, having a lunch with the ambassadors in Washington, D.C. He rather chose to take a picture with his hometown's uh, traditional costume. And back in the 20s, he shared this in all possible mediums there was, in newspapers, because he wanted to show that while he is this person, while he was this genius of the Albanian world, he also was this guy from a small hometown in Albania, and that carried it with him. And that's how I perceive myself most of the time. Not most of the time, I don't perceive it, I just am that most of the time. And at the same time, when you have this person, and when you have me, for example, there's how many billions are we in the planet right now? Can you just imagine how many cultural aspects of it are there? Can you even imagine how less we know about the diverse culture that are created? I personally believe that every person has an own mix and conglomerate of their own cultural backgrounds, like tied within themselves. And one cannot explain. For example, I am Albanian and I've grown up in this traditional folk environment. But my favorite music band, the Cranberries from Limerick in Ireland. And I absolutely listen to them every day. And every time I listen to them, I feel a bit Irish. But am I? I've been trying to tag that to myself a long time. I've been trying to solve this. So that's when got a step back and I got to realize, where did I belong? And I started to explore also with my peers. Did they know what the folklore, the myths, the cultures, the values that I embraced? Did they know them, where they come from? Did they know that what I thought was brewed into this intense cultural environment? And in the picture, you can see a group of people from southern Albania wearing their traditional costumes. And you can see a kid in there. And I intentionally put this picture because I've been exposed to this culture since I grew up. So if I would have wanted to escape that, it would have been just a facade. Because in reality, even though I wouldn't be wearing a costume, my costume would be within me. So I'm not going to take long, and I'm going to show you my story. So Albanian isopolyphony is actually enlisted in the short list of UNESCO's spiritual intangible heritage. It's a global value that is one of the most unique Albanian folklore traditions that has been around since 3,000 years ago. And it's been taken up generation by generation. My grandfather sang it, my father sings it, I sing it. If I have kids, I will teach them to sing it. And it is very distinct in its own way. And this is my story. Me and my hometown. It all began with my hometown, Vlora, Albania, in the south. Very beautiful city, seaside, historical. The first capital of independent Albania in 1912. How did I learn things for my hometown? Through this music. Well, one of the first songs that I learned when I was a kid was this particular song that I'm going to show you a snippet of. And it talks about how this music, this particular music, echoes in the waves that hit the shore of my hometown. That's what the lyrics say. And when I was 6 years old, I asked my father, like, what does the lyrics mean? Because I don't understand. And he explained it to me, and that made me connect even more with where I lived in. So every time I visit the beach in my hometown right now, I always think about this particular song. Cânga se gemona de tis băca fială banveșe de jona e so bărbivală cânga se gemona de tis băca fială banveșe de jona Zarat nesnă e soburat retnăgânga de tindi set spirto malilu vanăgânga. Beautiful. So my family has taught me to sing because they thought of it as not just a way to transcend culture through time and space, which is also something that I wanted to share with you because culture gets transcended that way. But my family showed me these songs to tell me that you belong to something. You are not just here lonely. You have something that you, if you choose, you can grasp upon. And I chose to follow this tradition. I chose to follow these values, even if I was too young to choose. But how young is someone when he chooses? Is it talent? Is it, I don't know, consciousness? Is it genius? Well, I cannot define that. What I can tell is that my values, and as I presume values of a lot of people, come maybe accidentally. And for example, how I learned about the history of Albania, I learned it from this particular song that my father sings. Buratërët shqiptarë mbrapa u vjen historia në Angli u ngrenevan që të bënë Shqipëria. Buratërët shqiptarë mbrapa u vjen historia në Angli u ngrenevan Well, that song, the lyrics tell the history of our national hero and how we made Albania independent. From that sentence translated when I was young, when I learned this one bit from the song, but the song made it even more curious to know more about the story, just because of that song and the way they sing it. And why would my dad sing when he was like in his garden working about the history of Albania? Well, that's the magic of music, and that's this magic that grasped me as well. This is me maybe 5 years ago, and we were in international session of the EYP, and I had my traditional costume with me. And in EYP, I found this space where I could also like converse with people about my culture. And this conversation really made me realize what's most important. Then when we talk about a sustainable living, we of course we think about the environment, of course we think about the social impacts, of course we think about the economic aspects of it, but we don't really give enough focus to who is doing this and who are the people who are doing this and what values do they have and what music do they sing. Does anyone care what music do these people sing in the Amazon? Okay, we're talking about the Amazon being destroyed, but do they really know what cultural values these treasures being lost are? And as a former speaker said, like those cultures, for example, in Southeast Asia would be lost if we were not sustainable. So this is a treasure we must preserve. For example, how did I get in touch with the concept of love when I was like 12 or 13? Is this particular song that the lyrics literally tell a story of how a guy was promised to marry a woman, but he left to go to war, and when he came back, she was married to another one, and because like the girl didn't marry him, she killed herself. So the title says, "I heard three shots," and imagine being exposed to that as you're a kid. I'm not saying it's the best way, but when I heard that, and when I heard the lyrics, and when I heard the song, I really thought to myself, I want to explore this. I want to learn this concept that made someone take their own life. What is love, really?
Sejdijola treko bure, amanite, amanure. Sejdijola treko amanite, amanure. Măstan se nu se uzure, amanite, amanure. Măstan se nu se uzure, amanite, amanure.
Well, then we go to the tangible thing that I did. I wanted to share this with you because all of what I've been thinking about this music that I've been brought up to, I always thought that it was me, it was personal. Then back in 2017, a very random person from the United Kingdom came to Albania, and he was roaming the streets of Tirana, the capital, searching for someone who knew English to translate to him. And I just picked him up in a bar, and he told me like, I've heard this song in Germany in a car driving in the traffic, and I know it's Albanian, but I don't know the lyrics and I don't know who sings it. And he plays that song, and it's my father singing. And he says, I want to do a documentary about this because I'm a musician and I love music. And just out of the sudden, I realized that I wasn't the only one who loved this music. Someone who had never been exposed to it loved it as well, and apparently came all through these troubles in Albania to make a documentary about it. And we actually made it. In 2018, we published it. And I'm going to show you, the title is Labari Laranhan, which is the title of a song, and it's translated to Washed by the Moon, which talks about, the mountains of southern Albania being like covered by the light of the moon. And there's a snippet of the trailer.
Labări la rănăcălă, este rauta mai e rănă. Labări la rănăcălă, este rauta mai rănă. Mai e tăbușă, bușă, este bole brăna. Hopsa, e de dura, e băcime, la moi la Male si supe me mangă si părdeti tăie jangă. Male si supe me mangă si părdeti tăie jangă. Amani sokana mani hati năcăl peie jali. Ete dura e băcime la
The wildest thing happened. We did the documentary and we thought it was there, ended there. We didn't get any support in Albania to like campaign it and distribute it and get it into cinema. But what happened is that someone in the UK, in a very nice artistic cafe, Cafe Oro, I highly recommend it, they picked it up and they said, we want to show this music to the British audience. So they invited us for a live performance, and it was the first time that a group from the small villages in southern Albania got to London for a concert. So that culture had a stage now in a city that has been for millennia, for hundreds of years actually, has been a center stage for world culture, for the mixture of different cultures. And for the first time, we were there. Who? Me. Who? Dan, the guy who picked up this music and he wanted to transcend it. And we actually managed to go to the British House of the Parliaments to give a performance. And what do we sing there? We sang about Europe and Albania and how we're connected and how Albania should get into the EU. I'm not kidding. The lyrics are about that.
Greu de priznate porta, jemi që kur lindi bota, po na dasi që ndahet torta, një cop dhe në shtatë të sopa. Greu de priznate porta, jemi që kur lindi bota, po na dasi që ndahet torta, një cop dhe në shtatë të sopa. Ele hapu boje kroke,
So all of this happened in 2019. We did the tour. Actually, it was a tour from London to Bristol to Newcastle to Nottingham, places where no one had heard about this music. The feedback was amazing, especially like in Newcastle and Nottingham, places where this music hadn't been before. And what I gathered from there was that I belonged now. I belonged to a cultural scene that I had no idea existed, to the scene of people who wanted to know more, maybe just about music this time, but they wanted to listen to my songs, to listen to our songs in our small community in Albania, because they mattered somewhere else, not just in my community, because this thread that runs through all of the world and across Europe, especially as the continent that has been literally the birthplace of civilization. This thread has been consistently living with us. The magical thread of music and folk and art, which we sometimes tend to forget. That we tend to forget that there's something that we've left behind. Maybe we haven't. Maybe it's alive with us, but we don't actively think about it. And with that, I really wanted to tell you that to be sustainable also means to think of yourself, to think about yourself, to think about who you are and what culture you bring with you. And if in this case, I bring this culture, I am proud of it because this is who I am. And I am that small town boy from Vlora, Albania, who sings to isopolyphony and is a diplomat. And with that, I want to tell you that you also are a voice, so sing it. Thank you very much.